What are the expectations for the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League's return to New Brunswick? Sutter's back in as the head coach of the Calgary Flames, almost the, in case of emergency, break glass. And Jerry's not available tonight, so we went and found somebody better at Halifax. Joining me tonight, Will MacLaren. It's Sports QuaranTV now. What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Sports QuaranTV with Chris Dobson and not Jerry Green. Joining us this week will be Will MacLaren, coming us from Halifax. Will, we appreciate you jumping in on this. I mean, you and I have done a lot of great work together here in New Brunswick. How's life down in Nova Scotia, brother?
Can't complain, Dobson. I mean, first of all, not Jerry Green, one of the nicer things you've ever said about me. Take it as a compliment. Of course, we know that Jerry's up in the Great White North of northern New Brunswick, kicking off the Q campaign, or the second half of the Q campaign up in New Brunswick. So all the best to the teams. Of course, best of luck to Jerry as well as he gets his pipes back into shape. But down here, you know, we're also playing. There's a game taking place, just in full disclosure, right now in Halifax between the Islanders and the Mooseheads. It's great to have hockey back with all 18 teams in the queue, no less.
Absolutely. It's the first time we've seen something like this since the start of the season, but I want to kick right into it, Will, and we're going to talk about the expectations for these New Brunswick teams now that we have seen a return to play. They haven't played since late November, after the trade period. Now that these kids are back on the ice after having so much time off, what do you expect to see here in New Brunswick?
Well, there were certain expectations really at the beginning of the season, Chris. And I guess the best place to start, let's start where the season resumes, up in Bathurst with the Titans. Awesome start to begin the season. A little bit of a sloppy end there. They were, I believe, 5-4-1 in their last 2 games, or last 10 games, entering the extended break. But a lot of interesting storylines there. Can they find their groove again? This is basically beginning of the season part 2. They've had the equivalent of one off season to compose themselves again, and with a few new bodies in the lineup, guys like Jacob Malotson, Jackson Bellamy, possibly most importantly, Jan Bednar, who will finally make his debut here. I think it's going to be very interesting because this is a team that certainly overachieved before the break. They now have that clean slate, and I can see this being a situation where they take full advantage of the scenario that they've been put in. They can start from scratch and just get another hot start going right out of the gate.
You're absolutely right. You talked about the acquisitions Bathurst made. I mean, that's some veteran leadership in that locker room now. And I mean, between Jackson Bellamy, you mentioned Jacob Malotson, don't forget Carter Hanrahan, he came on in as well. I mean, Bathurst made some moves to solidify this team because of the hot start they did have. And of course, they were doing that on the back of Chad Arsenault for the longest time. So he was able to carry the workload, got his gear, finally got him some Bathurst gear. And then all of a sudden, Jan Bednar showed up, and, you know, they're looking to expect big things out of him. But let's talk about St. John a little bit, because there's the question mark. And, you know, we've interviewed Trevor George. We've had great chats with Trevor in regards to the acquisitions they made. And they're the team that I'm really curious to watch right now. Of course, sending Joshua Huawei at the trade deadline, but bringing in, you know, another 20-year-old goaltender and Zachary Iman coming on in. Ryan Francis has been traded there. Vladimir Kokov, he's finally showed up. I mean, what are your expectations for St. John? I would expect to see these guys come flying out of the gate with this new club.
I'm almost scared to say, to be honest with you, Chris. We had high hopes at the beginning of the year. We have high hopes now. I think the most interesting fact with this team, expectations aside, is the number one Achilles heel going into the break was this is a very leaky team defensively. They're giving well over 4 goals up per game. It's certainly unacceptable with a core like the Sea Dogs have. And really, when Trevor George built this team, he built it largely with that back end of Jeremy Poirier and William Villeneuve, Charlie DeRoche, who's arguably been the best of the bunch. He's supposed to be a second pairing guy. Now they've gone, and not only are they sticking to their guns, they're doubling down on that defensive core. And it's great that they bring in the likes of Francis, and of course Kokov is now in the fold. But I guess my big question, and Chris, I'd be curious to know what your thoughts are on this, after seeing the biggest issue with this team on the ice, at the very least, exposed for the entirety of the first portion of this season, and now to see the Sea Dogs roll out the same line, the same decor. How exactly is this going to work? If you're Greg Gilbert, where do you begin?
Man, that's a great question. And I don't really know the right answer here, Will. I mean, on paper, when this season started, their decor was great. Offensively, I mean, there's no question offensively, their blue line is probably, if not the most talented, one of the most talented offensive blue lines in the league. I'm not sure who's at fault here. If you ask anybody in the organization, they'll never point blame at people. But if, they made so many different moves in goal, Will, that it almost makes you feel like they're pointing the finger at your netminder. But then to see them come on out, you talk about the blue line. I mean, I even look at the likes of like a Christopher Innes, for example. I mean, you're looking for some solid bodies. You're looking for what they've done there. Their first pass out of the zone has to be bang on. I mean, they brought in the pieces. They brought in the pieces to win, and Trevor's made it very clear that this team will be competitive. I know that COVID kind of slowed things down a little bit because in Trevor's mind, he was looking to go back to back to back on this thing. And now possibly with the moves that obviously Valdor made, the question mark remains is, are they going to accept a potential playoff spot this year, see how far they can push it, and then build for the next 2 years after that, because they've got the skill, but I don't know what to do at this point. I mean, I think the first 3 or 4 games is going to be very telling for the St. John Sea Dogs.
Agreed. And, to bring it back to Amond as well, quickly, Chris, this is a guy who spent his entire career playing in a very structured, especially defensively structured system in Miranda under Mario Pouliot. This is going to be very different. Greg Gilbert is a bit more of a run and gun coach. Not to say that he's not used to facing a lot of shots on any given night early on this year with Rouyn Miranda, and even last year, of course, it wasn't quite as airtight as it was during the Memorial Cup year when he was an undefeated backup. But this is going to be a very different scenario for him as well. And you talk about the team in general over the first few games. Just to combine the previous point of yours, Chris, I'm very interested to see how Zach Amond reacts to this new environment early on. And of course, to throw it to the final New Brunswick team, the Moncton Wildcats. I look at these guys as the team with nothing to lose. If there is a team in the Maritimes that has, and it's going to sound weird considering what they did at the trade deadline, but that has a lot going for them in terms of the future, even the present, and just the fact that they're in a situation where they know they're going to make the playoffs, and they're kind of playing with house money, and they can just treat this like an extended training camp. If I'm Dan Lacroix and company in Moncton, I'm pretty happy with how things have played out, and I'm just going to make hay while the sun shines in terms of getting these guys in the lineup.
You hit the nail right on the head, Will. They have nothing to lose and everything to gain. And, obviously this is the post-Jordan Spence era of the Moncton Wildcats now at this point. Tristan DeYoung is going to carry the workload on this team. It's not even a question on how that blue line is going to look. The moves that Richie Thibault and company have made in Moncton, when they drafted up to get Jon Loshing at the draft, I mean, they were expecting big things from him. Philip Daou is just taking leaps and bounds. Jacob Hudson's finally going to be in the lineup. I know he sat in the stands an awful lot in the first half of the season. He is your captain now that Fortier is gone. There's no more co-captains anymore. It is him. The biggest key piece that I'm excited for is to see the net tandem between Vincent Filion and Dakota Lund-Cornish and how they're going to split those starts. I mean, to me, you don't want to throw the kid to the wolves, but at the same time, he is one of the best goaltending prospects to ever come out of the QMJHL since Marc-Andre Fleury. Highly touted. The Wildcats scored a home run with him. Hopefully, you don't want to rush him, but at the same time, you want to give the kid some starts.
Well, when you've got a veteran like Lund-Cornish to insulate him, Chris, there's no reason why you can't bring him along slowly. Now, ironically, assuming that we get to a point here where all maritime teams will hopefully be playing one another at some point, there's not going to be any easy nights per se. but there are certainly going to be select times where they can certainly put Filion in the lineup. And, going back to your point about some of the younger guys, Vincent LaBelle, he was something of a revelation in the first half of this season. Lotion was really coming on. It kind of gets lost here because we haven't seen these guys play in literally months, but Lotion was on a 4-game point streak going into the break. I look at the Moncton Wildcats as a team that kind of caught teams by surprise early on. They were 6-7 at the time of the shutdown. They still played the fewest games of any team in the league, but that happens a lot with teams that are coming into what I always call year zero of the building process, where they're really just starting to turn around, which we're seeing now. The offseason trade of Jacob Pelletier and, of course, the trade at Christmas of Jordan Spence. They're really just starting to get building things right back up. This is part 2 of that. I see this as a team that can once again come in second half after an extended break and surprise teams yet again.
Last quick question I want to ask before we change topics here, and that is, outside of Val-d'Or, can anybody in Quebec, do you think anybody in Quebec can outtake Val-d'Or right now?
If there's a team that can really give them a really good run for the money, the top on my list is the Victoriaville Tigre, which may sound a little bit unusual, but keep in mind they are one team that they actually had the foresight. I was talking to actually their GM, Kevin Cloutier, last week. They had the foresight to keep their Euros in Igor Serduk and Mikhail Abramov in Victoriaville during the summer. So they started the season with 2 Euros, one of the few teams in the CHL to do so. And they just build around that group. Brooklyn Kalmakov, of course, former Cape Breton Eagle. He's in there. He's producing very well. They augment that with Alex Bocage, a Memorial Cup winner in Rwanda, as well as Sean Element coming over from Cape Breton during the trade deadline. 2 huge acquisitions, but it's on the blue line. I think if most people went to the Quebec League website right now and realized this is the best defensive team in the queue right now, they would be rather surprised. And they're not doing it with a lot of household names, so to speak. They're doing it with guys like Sean LaRochelle and Vincent Savigny and Fabio Jacobo in net. Plus, they go out and get Alexi Arsenault from the Rwanda Huskies, another Memorial Cup winner for the blue line at the trade period. You always hear that saying, they're built for the playoffs. The Victoriaville Tigres strike me as that team. They will grind out wins against teams no matter how skilled they may be. And I think they could definitely give the Four a run for the money.
I'm glad you said it. I've got it written down right here. I said the same thing. Victo was my team, surprisingly, after the moves they made. So let's move on. We've already spent 15 minutes. This is crazy. Let's go to the NHL because we talked about it in the hot topic. The one of the bigger stories right now, of course, is Sutter going back behind the bench of the Calgary Flames. I mean, everyone thought Montreal was the only team to go recycle coaches. Well, the Flames are bringing Sutter back in. Can it work this time with the team that's on the ice?
I think the only thing that I look at here, Chris, is will it work with this group? We saw what Sutter did in Calgary the first time around. We saw what he did in LA. Those teams were kind of bereft of talent. I think this is arguably the most talented group that he will jump in and work with out of those 3 scenarios. And, I was actually reading an article earlier today that actually stated, and this is from a former player of his in Jake Muzzin, that he is a guy who is tougher on the younger players. So how are the Matthew Tkachuks and, a little bit older, but a guy like Johnny Gaudreau going to react to a very hard-nosed guy like Sutter? It's a guy that they haven't been under, a coach they haven't been under, or personnel they haven't been under in the NHL yet. If he can work his magic, so to speak, with those sort of guys, then there's no reason to believe that he won't be as successful as he was the last time around in Calgary.
No, and I look like my question mark with Calgary right now, of course, and this was it before Sutter was coming in, but now that he's there, what does this do to the Sam Bennett situation? I mean, obviously his name's been all over the media. Can Sutter reel him back in? Is he still going to want to be out? I think Sutter's going to lean heavy on guys like Sean Monahan, Johnny Gaudreau. These are the guys. I mean, that's the core of your team right now. And of course, your Matthew Tkachuk, you look at what he's doing. It's a question mark. I mean, I'm not a Flames fan by any means, but I know a couple of Flames fans that are actually pretty pumped about this move. But overall, like I said, I guess we'll see what happens. But Sam Bennett's my big question mark right now.
Right. And I think just as much as anything, I think a lot of Flames fans out there they were ready to see a change from the Jeff Ward era. And
right.
Speaking of groups of fans that are maybe looking for changes nowadays, let's talk about your boy Carrie Price and Montreal Canadiens. There's every week there's a new change in Habs land, and this past week it's Sean Burke coming in as the new goaltending consultant, or whatever title that they've brought in.
Director of some sort, I think. Yeah.
Director of goaltending personnel or whatever. Chris, your thoughts on Carrie Price and what you see from your chair?
So my favorite part of this whole thing is on this sheet that we got from our producer. All it says is the topic is, does Price need fixing? And if he does, is Sean Burke the man for the job? My comments after the notes are, Price is just fine. Leave him the hell alone. But if you look at his last 3 starts, posting a goals against him of 1.0 and a save percentage of 965. He is the Carey Price people have been used to seeing. Now, what drives me crazy about Habs fans more than anything on the planet, Will, is 2 weeks ago, Price was washed up. Price was done. Price was heading to Seattle. Oh my God, I can't believe we've got this.
I believe your typical co-host has been bringing up the Seattle thing quite a bit, hasn't he?
Holy jumpins. Jerry,
Hi, Jerry.
And I don't know if he's doing it if he's trying to get under my skin, but overall, Carey Price is going to be fine. Yes, I'm happy that Jake Allen's there, but the question has to come up. And I read an article last week, actually, that was said that apparently they were expecting Carey Price to struggle with Jake Allen in town. And the reason being is Carey Price is used to handling the workload. Carey Price is used to playing 80% of the games of the season. He's not used to this rest. So the issue is when he has this rest, I think he wants to play. Now with Dom Ducharme, Sean Burke, and, even look at their power play. They bring Burrows in. Their power play is now 5 for 10 since he's been involved, and it was atrocious before that. But Carey Price is playing unbelievable. This reminds me of the Halak Price conversation that took place years ago. And everyone was like, "Oh, Price is a donkey. He needs to go." And during his own press conference, Price told everybody to chill out. Everything's going to be fine. I'm telling everybody now to reiterate and quote Carey Price from years ago. Everybody just chill out. Everything is going to be fine. Carey Price is one of the most elite goaltenders in the world. He's going to be okay.
Carey Price is 33 going on 34. That's going to be in the back of my mind. But that aside, Carey Price is used to this. You hit the nail on the head, Chris. This is the Halak situation all over again. This is Carey Price, raising his arms after making a routine save in the 2009 playoffs. This is nothing that he hasn't seen before. I would turn the tables on the conversation and say, Mr. Bergevin, you've got a second line out there posing as a first line. Carey Price and Jake Allen, for that matter, don't get me wrong, both of these guys still have to be as close to the top of their games as possible. This isn't a situation, we've seen it written early on this season, where Carey Price doesn't have to be the way Carey Price of the past. He just has to be good enough not to lose. That's bull. That's not
right.
They still don't have an impact forward, a game breaker anywhere else in that lineup. They have great players. Don't get me wrong. I love Nick Suzuki. I love Jeff Petrie. I can go up and down the lineup. Guys who you want to see win. But at the end of the day, the biggest impact is still coming from between the pipes, because there's nobody up front that can match his star power. Nobody else that can change the momentum of a game like Carey Price can do. So at the end of the day, you know what? Guess what? There is still a lot of pressure on Carey Price. But to your point, Chris, he can handle it.
Last thing I'm going to say before we move on, and that is, if you want to start pointing fingers right now, I would look in front of Carey Price. And I hate to say it, but look at your captain. Shea Weber's looking like Fulton Reed out there, basically skating with cement on his feet, and he's about 1 out of 5 on the shot. So anyways, let's move on. I want to, because there's something pretty big. We'll tie it back to the Moncton side of things as well. Big news, of course, Keith Yandle's Ironman streak. I mean, Keith Yandle has been an absolute gem. I love this story for so many reasons. Number one, because just a month ago, there was rumors that they were going to bench Keith Yandle to break the Ironman streak, and social media took over and said, the hell you are. And, here we are, and things are great. But, if you look at 3 of the top 6 guys in the Ironman streak right now for the best, they're still playing today. Mm-hmm. Like, it's crazy. You've got Patrick Marleau, Keith Yandle, and Phil Kessel, the top 3 of the top 6.
Yeah, absolutely. And, testament certainly to durability of modern players. Yes. Is it a reflection on how the game's played today? I don't know. I think it might almost be as much luck as anything. But, you got to hand it to a guy like Keith Yandle, who came here at the age of 19 for the Memorial Cup season in 2006. I'm pretty sure there were many nights in which Ted Nolan and Danny Flynn were ready to strangle him on the bench due to some of the less than finer points of his defensive game. But you know what? Even throughout the season that year, that refined itself with time to the point that he could play the game at a professional level. Totally not surprised 14 years after watching him play in Moncton that he is still going pretty much as good as ever in Florida with a surprisingly good Panthers team. Nothing but happy to see this. And really, I have him in terms of most exciting player in Wildcat franchise history. I got 2 other guys that come to mind immediately. Alexei Tezikov, rest in peace, and Connor Garland. For me, those 3 guys define skill with style. Yandle can bring it just as well as anybody I've seen come through the Maritimes.
With about 6 minutes left, Will, let's transition off the ice and head to the gridiron, because big news coming out of Dallas Cowboys camp. Dak Prescott signs a 4-year, $160 million deal with the Cowboys. And just so I don't get any of these numbers wrong, $66 million signing bonus, $126 million of this contract is guaranteed with an average annual salary of $40 million. In 2021, Prescott's going to earn a base salary of $9 million and a signing bonus of $66, which gives him a total of $75 million for year 1. That's absolutely massive.
And at the end of the day, it's the NFL. The NFL is a behemoth. I know in the notes that our producer brought us, the only guy that eclipses that is Messi at $92 million. Well, what's the other behemoth in worldwide sports? European football. So at the end of the day, this is just a reflection of the revenue streams of just the buckets and wheelbarrow loads of cash that the NFL generates on a team-by-team basis. And this should be a surprise. I feel to nobody nowadays. The NFL has been they've been trending towards this since like the 60s with Pete Rozelle and guys like that. This is just the next step in what's just an absolute marketing giant. And you know what? It's good work if you can get it. Kudos to them.
Well, I was looking at it, and I want to give kudos where kudos is due, because you talked about those notes we got pre-hand from our producer. He is very keen on the graphics and the charts, and he is thrilled about these. And I got to mention it because it makes my heart happy. But I was looking at the annual media rights totals too. So you talked about the NFL, 7.5 billion. The NBA's at 2.6. Major League Baseball's at 1.6. March Madness alone brings in $990 million, which is happening right now. Arguably one of my favorite tournaments of the year. But the NFL just seems to get it. They get it right. You talk about all these moves, but my question mark in this whole Dak situation was there ever a doubt Dak was going to re-sign in Dallas? I mean, there was speculation that he was going to go. Jerry Jones was like, he's not going anywhere. I don't know. I'm happy for him. I love the story. I love that he's staying in Dallas right now. At the end of the day, he's still Dak Prescott. The question is, will he be as quick on his feet as he was last year? To be determined. Stay tuned.
Yeah, absolutely. And, to the point of whether or not he was going to stay in Dallas, I don't know. I look at Jerry Jones, who's been looking to get back to the top of the heap for 25 years. I'm pretty sure he's not afraid to throw whatever money he needs to throw at it. I mean, $66 million, what's that to Jerry? That's like half of a new scoreboard.
Billy has to say he probably has that in his suit pocket.
Exactly.
Oh.
Yes.
Sorry to cut you off. Will, we got about 2.5 minutes left to top this last topic, but I know as a fellow Red Sox fan, I have to ask you quickly in 2.5 minutes or less, with all the moves being made, Could we see the Boston Red Sox finish above 500 this year? That's my marker. The plus minus of 500. Will the Sox be above 500 when the season's over?
First of all, I pretty much have the same measuring stick as you, Chris. I look at the lineup, the batting order, 1 through 8 at the very least, and I say it's okay. They're talking about having Kiki Hernandez leading off. If Verdugo, Renfroe, those guys have decent seasons or at least seasons that reflect their careers thus far, they'll be fine. If Martinez and Rafi Devers go back to 2018 level, then you know what? It's a bonus. But boy, I really hope there's a good story coming out of that bullpen and out of that rotation, because that is going to this team might be made or broken by whether or not somebody can walk in and fulfill the closer's role, which right now I'm kind of hoping in Starwins and Hernandez, and the status of Eduardo Rodriguez. And when you're relying on 2 pitchers to make or break your season, I really hope Alex Cora still has the magic he had in 2018, man.
Bang the trash can, buddy. Bang the trash can. At the end of the day, no, the other question mark I'm going to have to, and I don't know, we don't have a whole lot of time left, is will we see the return of Chris Sale halfway through the season this year? And if we do, will we get the Chris Sale that Red Sox fans are used to? You talked about Verdugo. He's my question mark to me. I mean, if you can get him at I will say at a .950 OPS, he's about 85-90% of what Mookie could be if you get him on the right spot. Yeah, I'm excited. Devers is a big question mark for me. I'm not sure. Xander's going to have a bounce back, but have a monster year. Anyways, yeah, so that's it. I appreciate your opinion on that. We've got about a minute left. Before we say goodbye, though, sad news coming out of Major League Baseball, of course, in New Brunswick. Réal Cormier, unfortunately, has lost his battle with cancer. Very sad, Réal. Inducted into the Pitching Hall of Fame in 2012. Had his best season with the Philadelphia. Came on in, I think it was 8-0 as a reliever. Played for the Expos, played for the Red Sox twice. Drafted by St. Louis. Just absolutely sad. And of course, myself and Will and everybody here at Rogers TV send our thoughts and prayers and condolences out to the family of Réal Cormier. But just a sad day overall.
Absolutely. And if anybody has an opportunity, just right quick, Shai Davidi at Sportsnet, excellent article on the website on Réal. Just the sort of guy who, when you saw him go out to the mound, it was like watching him punch a clock, go in, do the work, get out. And he did it for 17 seasons, and he will be sorely missed.
Absolutely. Will, that's going to wrap it up for us here on Sports QuaranTV. Thanks for filling in. You filled the chair well. Jerry's going to be rattly missed if this was a good one. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Chris.
Cheers, guys. Enjoy the show. We'll see everybody next week on Sports QuaranTV.